A pair of new lovers, Roman and Ollie, go the extra mile to investigate the new guy of Roman's former girlfriend, unaware that this is the beginning of their worst nightmare. In 1975 Argentina, an infamous rebel group called Popular Revolutionary Army or PRA stole 25 boxes of dynamite from a mining complex, with the Argentine Anti-Communist Alliance, also known as AAA, stepping in to put an end to the rebels. They successfully ended the siege. They retrieved a large number of weapons, aside from the 25 dynamite boxes that were never found. Decades later, Roman and Ollie sit in a car outside an old building in a rustic town while the girlfriend chats with a blonde guy on a dating app. She informs her boyfriend that the stranger has invited her for a romantic dinner tonight, and the door to his house is open. Roman angrily comments on how trashy this man is since he's already seeing Jackie, Roman's former girlfriend, but he's still on a dating app to date other women. The boyfriend continues blabbering about how Jackie is unreachable. Ollie reminds him that Jackie is already his ex, which doesn't permit him to hack into the woman's email to find out she's having a new relationship with the blonde guy. However, Ollie reassures him that once she meets the new guy, they'll find out where Jackie is. Roman takes the laptop and reads his ex's email, bidding goodbye and reminding him not to contact her anymore. Ollie takes the laptop and discovers that the IP address from the blonde guy she's chatting with and Jackie's email are the same. She encourages Roman to proceed with their plan as he can't start anew if he doesn't end the past. Then, Ollie courageously enters the building, calling out to the owner and commenting that the house is big. She sees the blonde guy by the window and approaches him but soon realizes it's a dummy. She screams as the arm falls off, but someone is already standing behind her, preventing her from making noise. Meanwhile, Roman impatiently waits in the car when he sees an elderly man on an adult walker having difficulties crossing the road. He assists the older man, and he's prompted to stop in front of the house that Ollie entered. He calls Jackie's phone, but there's no response, so he asks the masked boy, Queek, about the elderly man. Queek tells him that the man lives there, but when Roman probes if he's the grandfather of the blonde guy, the boy asks if he's a cop. Then, a group of men stops him from cornering the boy. Roman clarifies that he's just looking for his ex-girlfriend, but the men usher him away. Queek's mother, Pia, arrives, scolding the boy for wearing the mask and not screaming, just as she advised him when a stranger talks. Roman hops in his car and tracks Jackie's phone through GPS, leading him to drive around the neighborhood to find another entrance. He jumps over a wall, cutting his hand in the process. As he sneaks in, he drops a random bottle which Pia hears. Fortunately, she dismisses it thinking her son has brought home a cat. Roman successfully enters the old man's house and explores it, finding nothing unusual until he discovers a room with a photograph of doctors operating on something. He turns around and finally sees a room with a one-way mirror. Inside are Baxter, an elderly man, Gordon, the man he helped earlier, a woman suspended through bondings, and Ollie, who's tied up. Roman cautiously turns on the switch that can help him hear what they're talking about, and he witnesses how the woman pleads to them as Baxter drops a liquid chemical in front of her. Gordon asks the woman to answer the equation on the board, and despite her confessions that she has no idea, the elderly man insists that she knows. Baxter releases her bindings and drops nearer the chemical, pushing her to claim she can read it. She asks for pen and paper to solve the equation, but this only tells the men she has no clue. Baxter finally releases the rope, and her head is blasted off when it touches the chemical, leaving Ollie screaming her lungs out while Roman stares in shock. Gordon looks at the two-way mirror as memories flash about the first time they arrived in the house. He finally notices the lighted bulb that signals they can be heard from outside. Roman nervously presses the switch as the older man fiddles with the bulb, thinking it's broken. However, Gordon presses the reverse talkback button to check if someone is outside, so the intruder does his best to stay silent. Baxter comments he's hallucinating again, so Gordon turns his attention to Ollie, saying she shouldn't yell because they find it perturbing. He asks the woman what the word means, so she defines it, making Gordon conclude that she can help them. Roman silently leaves the room and hides as Baxter carries the lifeless body he wrapped in a trash bag. Meanwhile, Gordon gets to know Ollie while checking his chemicals and makes fun of her name, suggesting that Jacqueline sounds better, which catches Ollie's attention. She asks what the chemical is, and the elderly man places an open bottle on her arm, terrifying the woman as she balances it with all her might. Gordon explains that they used to hunt naive people like her, but now they voluntarily come to their place. He puts a drop of the solution on Ollie's forehead while explaining that this is similar to nitroglycerin, but he made it by extracting dynamite. Then, he places an iron weight on top of her head and asks Ollie what the equation means, unaware that Roman has entered the room. The woman buys time as the effects of the chemical kick in. She declares it's not an equation but a statement that says, "Kiss me if you can read this." Gordon stares at the board and laughs as he can see what Ollie is talking about. Roman is already behind him. aiming to strike, but as the older man turns around, the intruder cowardly hides. He blabbers about how clever he is for studying language intensively, while others remain hypocrites who know nothing, and the younger generation is no different, a bunch of clueless fools. He points out that every generation's intelligence declines, giving them no capability to speak well, which leads to no liberty. Afterward, Gordon says he'll enjoy speaking with Ollie more and leaves the room. Roman approaches his girlfriend, but he can't touch the solution, fearing it'll explode. Instead, he asks who those people are and where Jackie is. Ollie frustratedly asks him if he thinks it's the right time to talk about the matter, so he takes the bottle and throws it to the side. The chemical doesn't explode, but the woman remains still due to the drop of solution on her forehead. Roman carefully removes the iron weight hanging on her face. He takes his phone and searches the internet about nitroglycerin, which can be triggered by any sudden sound or impact but can be neutralized by water or any dry substance. Roman scans the area and finds chalk, so he collects the dust and blows it onto Ollie's forehead, successfully neutralizing the solution. Since there's no phone reception, Roman updates his social media page, frustrating his girlfriend since they need the police. Ollie wants to leave, but Roman insists on finding Jackie despite the woman telling him she's probably gone. The girlfriend decides to escape alone and kisses her lover goodbye. Unfortunately, the front door is locked, so she goes around the house and finds Gordon emailing a new victim. Roman continues exploring and discovers a basement where Jackie is finally found, covered in nitro. The hopeless Jackie tells him there's no escaping, but Roman thinks of a way while the woman narrates how she's electrocuted and burned. There's no blonde guy, and only the two elderly are in the house. While looking around, Roman finds the dynamite boxes. Meanwhile, Ollie almost screams upon seeing the mannequin move, realizing it's a real person. Simultaneously, Baxter returns home after disposing of the body. On the other hand, Roman instructs Jackie to lie on the plastic he managed to get since her back isn't covered with nitro. He carefully unties her and directs her to move slowly while immense sweat drips from both of them due to the tension. Jackie lies on the plastic successfully, and Roman drags her away to avoid sudden movement. Meanwhile, Ollie looks for a way out, but Gordon suddenly calls out. Ollie hides, but the elderly man is about to turn on the lights. Fortunately, the light fails to turn on, leaving the room dark, so he complains about it to Baxter. Memories of the past flash in Gordon's mind as he declared that the project was a failure and they had to eliminate the subjects. He stared at the wall, which transformed into a secret room. Braxton arrives and urges him to go upstairs, and they both leave. Ollie takes her chance of finding another way out, so she goes down the stairs. She trips into something, unaware that there's a strange woman behind her. On the other hand, Roman keeps dragging Jackie, but the plastic rips and he hits the shelf where a nitro bottle almost falls. Simultaneously, Ollie is surrounded by wild women, so she screams in fright. Roman and Jackie hear thumping and see the wall moving. The women attack Ollie, scratching her at any chance they get. Roman tears the wall open, saves Ollie, and blocks the wall. Then, the three decide to get rid of the nitro on Jackie, so Ollie proposes to go to the bathroom while she finds some scissors to cut off the nitro-soaked hair. The ex-girlfriend removes her clothes slowly, assisted by Roman to prevent sudden movement and sound. Concurrently, Ollie returns to the chat room, where she saw scissors a while ago. The blonde guy suddenly moves, so she signals him to stay silent. However, he panics upon hearing the elderly men approaching, so he yells. Ollie punches him to silence him, and Baxter finds the collapsed man. He positions him to be appropriately seen in the chat room. Afterward, Ollie returns to the basement and sarcastically greets the two, who seem to be getting along. She cuts Jackie's hair and places them carefully on the shelf. The man checks his phone, and the women mock him for having the lame act of asking for help on social media instead of directly calling the police. Ollie leaves ahead of them while Roman helps his ex climb the stairs slowly. Jackie grabs the chance to ask about his status with Ollie. Meanwhile, Ollie crawls past Baxter, but her companions are incredibly slow. Suddenly, the wild women distract them, and the thumps shake the shelves, making the nitro-soaked hair fall and explode. The elderly men separate due to mobility issues, Gordon upstairs and Baxter downstairs. Ollie takes the chance to climb out the bathroom window but falls on the glass bottles on Pia's property. She faints, and the mother sees her. Simultaneously, the wild women escape and charge toward Roman and Jackie. Fortunately, a chunk of nitro drops on the stairs and explodes when a woman pounces on them. The old couple gets away just in time for Baxter to come check on the wild women, their test subjects. In Pia's residence, Ollie awakens and requests to use the phone to call the police, but since the men in the house are doing illicit activity, they refuse to allow her. On the other hand, Roman and Jackie inch to the bathroom while Baxter wears his protective gear before going to the basement. Concurrently, Gordon discovers that Ollie is missing. In the bathroom, the faucet breaks and continuously pours out hot water, so Roman warns Jackie that high temperature can trigger the explosion. Therefore, the only way is the water tank on the terrace. While Baxter faces the wild women, Gordon announces that there are intruders, so the man hastens to leave. Gordon accidentally crosses paths with Roman and laughs upon recognizing him as the man closes the bathroom door to keep Jackie's presence a secret. However, the bathroom steams up, and the hot water overflows, so the woman has no choice but to climb. On the other hand, Ollie argues with the neighbors to call the police, explaining that the elderly men are taking people's lives. Meanwhile, Baxter faces off with Roman, and Jackie throws some nitro on the door, causing an explosion. Her ex instructs her to go to the terrace, but Gordon chases her slowly while she crawls away from him. Then, Gordon loads a big syringe with nitro, and Jackie successfully arrives on the terrace. She screams for help, which the people in Pia's residence hear. Ollie climbs to help the woman while Gordon reassures the neighbors that there's nothing to worry about. Due to their reluctance, Gordon disperses the nitro from the syringe, burning them. In anger, the men destroy the wall to enter the neighbor's house. After a while, they create a hole in the wall. Concurrently, Gordon disperses the nitro toward Jackie, so the woman lets herself fall into the water tank. Shortly after, Ollie arrives to help, but Baxter gets her, and she lands on Gordon's feet. The elderly man places a bottle of nitro on her forehead. Baxter suggests ending them immediately, but Gordon wants to play, so he angrily leaves. Jackie resurfaces from the water to breathe, and Gordon uses the syringe to disperse nitro toward her. She successfully evades by going under the water again. Meanwhile, the men enter the house to confront the elderly. Baxter prepares the nitro for the clueless men. Fortunately, Roman finds a bottle of nitro himself. Simultaneously, Ollie courageously aims to grab the bottle on her forehead, and Gordon waits for Jackie to resurface. Suddenly, Ollie throws the nitro bottle near Gordon's feet, burning his legs and making him fall. Jackie finally resurfaces and stares at the helpless man with a vengeance. On the other hand, Roman shows the nitro bottle to Baxter, so the older man drops the bottle he's holding, knowing it won't explode and burn him due to his protective gear. He focuses on catching the bottle Roman has thrown in his direction, but the sudden impact triggers a colossal blast, and the men fly away due to the impact. On the terrace, Gordon crawls backwards since he can't move due to his brittle bones, while the two women seethe in anger as they stare at him. Soon, Gordon is pushed into the basement where the wild women are. Paralyzed, he can only look back on when he and Baxter happily talked about how the younger generation has been ignorant compared to people of their time. Then, they began criticizing how technology and the internet have worsened their mental capacity, which is the beginning of their plans. He's dragged back to reality as the wild women, the result of his failed research subjects, surround him. With no capability to move, he can only scream in agony as they attack him. Outside the basement, the survivors listen to his terrified screams. Jackie grabs the chance to thank Roman by hugging him. Just as she's about to kiss him, Roman gently stops her and declares that he's glad he came to help. He heads out and sits on the stairs outside. His phone suddenly rings, surprising him, so he throws it away. Ollie, who's sitting beside him, laughs at his reaction. Then, she asks him for his next plan, and Roman tells her he'll do whatever she likes.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.